Hello, y'all. Uh, Friends, this is H.J. Sullivan, or you can call me Harold, and I wanted to share with a script with you guys. Sorry, this is the first video I've ever done. So, but anyway, this is a Family Guy Friday the 13th script that I wrote a few years ago. So I'm going to read some of it to you guys for the whole script because it's only about a 20-minute script, 25-minute episode. I figured it'd be cool to do a crossover. Yeah. I also wrote a Halloween Friday the 13th and a Superman one before that, which would have been like an hour long episode called Up Yours Superman. Okay. Of course, computer runs slow when you're trying to do something. Sorry about that. I should have practiced something first. Anyway, here we go with this. It's Family Guy Presents. His name is Jason Voorhees, and it was dated December 2010 to October 2011. I worked on it off and on. I usually did scripts continuously till they were finished, but this one I just started off with a little idea and then I kind of went from there. Oh, okay, let's see here. So anyway, the characters in this story would be Meg, Peter, Chris, Lois, Stewie, Brian, and Herbert, the old man. Let's see here. If you guys can see what I'm reading. Okay. I don't do impressions of the characters, so I'll just try to read with some punctuation. The Griffins are driving. Okay, let's start off again. Okay, exterior, sunny day. The Griffins are driving in a car with camping gear tied on the roof, talking, arguing. Stewie says while looking forward. Stewie says while looking toward Peter, "I hope we don't get lost like the last time you took us on vacation." And then we go into a flashback of Stewie wearing a white dress. He's standing in the middle of the yellow brick road, and he's staring at several hundred dwarves that surround him in every direction. Back to the car pulls up to a road that goes left and right, with a sign in between that reads Cunningham Cove. The sign is titled. The sign is tilted though and points straight down. The car makes the right turn, and in the grass off of the right side of the road is another sign that reads Crystal Lake, with Camp Blood spray painted across it in red. It also has an arrow pointing right. As they drive forward, there's more arguing. Meg says, "Our family's just jinxed," and an ambulance passes them going the other way. Their car pulls up to old wooden cabins and past another Camp Crystal Lake sign that this time is hanging sideways from a tree and smacks the front windshield in a way so we clearly read that it says Camp Crystal Lake. Yet no one in the car makes note of it, but Peter, who says, "Geez, that what was that?" So I gotta get better at reading and not be so nervous again. Okay. I like writing Jason, and so I wanted to put. I figured, what if Family Guy was in there? You know, a little bit of humor, make it familiar to Friday fans, like a Lost episode. You know. Okay, exterior one of the cabins. There's a tire swing and a tree outside it. The front door key doesn't really work, so Peter forces it, and they get in. Interior of that cabin. Everything is covered in sheets and dusty. Peter says, "Isn't it great? And I rented it cheap." Exterior. The other cabins are all abandoned, but one that has teenagers staying in it. We hear loud music. The song "He's Back" by Alice Cooper plays from a radio. There's a little nod to it there. And a butt from a joint is flicked out of one of the downstairs windows. Another nod for the Friday fans. Excuse me. We're gonna drink here in a second. Okay, interior Griffin's cabin. There's a knock at the door, and Stewie jumps up to reach the doorknob. He opens the door and stares up at a teenage girl with large breasts. She says, "You guys want to come over?" Looking at Meg and Chris behind Stewie. Stewie says, "Sure, I'd love to come." Lois walks up to them from behind Stewie, and she says, "You two go ahead, have fun." Looking at Chris and Meg, Stewie says, "Damn." We see the front door lock has been broken and is loose from Pierre's forced entry. So it's gotta have gags all the time, you know what I mean? Just like Family Guy, every second has to have a gag, but it has to be serious too. In the background is a closet. There's crime scene tape and a nest on the floor. An exterior Griffin's cabin. The teenage girl walks out saying, "I'm Alice." Meg and Chris walk out behind her. Chris shuts the front door behind them all. An old guy, Herbert, on a bike comes. He appears saying, "You're all doomed." If I can do a better one. You, you're all doomed. I can't do it. You guys, laugh at that one. Then he rides off in the woods. The old guy sees someone frightening behind him. He speeds up and tumbles down the small hill and deeper into the woods. He's killed as he and the bike entangle. Parts of the bike protrude from his body. We pan to the top of the hill, and at an angle from behind, we see the person, can't see their face, who frightened the old guy. They throw their arms up in disappointment and turn and walk away. Exterior, it's nighttime. Angle on a full moon, and then around a campfire, the teens, Alice, Connie, D'Amico, the most popular girl in school, she is, and two twin guys, Daryl and Harold. That's kind of an homage to an old show, Bobby Hart. And Meg and Chris sit talking. Connie gets up, saying to Harold, "Be right back, bathroom break." The camera follows Connie as she walks away from the campfire and back into the teens' cabin. Let's see, and then we go at the campfire. Harold says, "These woods are haunted. The last ones to trespass at the old camp. Well, let's just say the authorities are still baffled about what happened to them." They don't really say anything, but he says something, you know. But anyway, a close up on Meg. An axe is struck down into a piece of wood beside her. In a wider angle, we see it's Connie. Connie laughs. See, if that was me, I'd have been slapped her. I wouldn't have slapped her, but if I was a girl, I would have. Meg is upset. She runs away from the others and out to the edge of the dock. We begin another nod here. She looks down into the water off the lake, crying. Her tears hit the water. A few seconds later, the lake bubbles. Then a person in a hockey mask raises up from the lake, looking right at her. Meg sees this teen. Meg sees this, and then she says, "I'm out," and she passes out. That's an homage to Back to the Future for you guys that don't get it. Another nod. The Family Guy throws nods to other things, so this is a nod and a nod and a nod. Decent. Uh, so then Meg wakes up and sees the hockey mask staring back at her, tilting. She screams and she runs into the woods and stops. She looks around and then she sees something in the bushes. Meg walks over and lifts an object from the bushes. It's an old lady's head. She drops the head and then she faints again. Damn, Meg and her fainting. Close up of Meg, she is awakened by someone. She says, "Did you see him?" The boy says, "Who?" She says, "The man in the lake." "What about the lady's head? Did you see it?" In a wider angle, we see Meg is now in the Griffin's cabin. It's Peter standing over Meg, Lois beside him. Peter looks at Meg like she's crazy and then says, "Oh, the guy with the hockey mask." Peter then goes into a trance-like flashback. Trance-like flashback. Damn, I read like Rocky and shit. Peter says, "A boy drowned because the counselors weren't watching." No, you didn't say drowned. Okay. Peter says, "A boy drowned because the counselors weren't watching." Into a flashback. Exterior evening. Near the lake, a teenage guy and girl stand kissing. The guy stops kissing the girl and says, "You're it." Then he laughs and starts to skip away from her while looking back at her. The girl skips following him. As they both skip, she's smiling. The words camp counselor on the back of their shirts. Uh, Back to Peter, continuing. His name is Jason Voorhees. His name was Jason Voorhees. Peter pauses and continues, looking creepily ahead at nothing. Kill her, mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away. Jason's mommy was mad, so she murdered a bunch of teenagers that came back here a couple of years later. But somebody got hurt, yeah. One of them survived and swoosh, cut Mrs. Voorhees' head right off with a machete. Strangest thing though is that Jason came back after his mommy's death, and he started killing too. And he started killing to avenge her death because she had taken revenge for his death. But he had never really died. Lois says, "You knew people were murdered here? Kids were murdered, and you brought us up here?" Peter says, "Close to here, not here. I didn't mean to make the wrong turn. I mean the right. No, the wrong." Peter continues, "I don't think we gotta worry about that guy Jason though. They got him like 20 years ago." Okay. The sound of glass breaking is heard as Alice's body flies into the cabin through the large glass living room window. Meg and Lois scream. Stewie says, "Zoinks!" Brian jumps into Stewie's arms. The body hits Peter's suitcase. A hockey mask is revealed after it falls from within the suitcase. Lois picks up the mask, saying to Peter, "What's this?" Then she pulls a machete out of the suitcase. Peter says, "A joke?" Ah. Outside the broken window, someone with a pillowcase over their head that has one eye hole cut out of it stands. The pillowcase killer runs toward the window and jumps to leap inside. Lois drops the hockey mask, then the machete. The killer hits his head on the wood above the window opening as he tries to climb in and falls to the ground, then gets up and climbs in through the opening. Stewie opens the front door and runs out of the cabin. The killer stands across from Meg, Lois, Peter, Chris, and Brian, who are all shaking in a corner. The killer reaches toward them. They begin screaming. Exterior cabin, it's night. Stewie is in the van, trying to get the keys in the ignition, saying, "Damn! Damn!" Interior cabin. The killer removes the pillowcase from his head and picks up the hockey mask. Brian, Lois, Meg run out of the front door. Exterior cabin. Meg stops near the front of the cabin and says, "Where's Chris?" Another nod. Interior cabin, Chris says, while looking out the front door and back at the killer. "It's okay, you guys. He just wanted the hockey mask." The killer then picks up the machete with the other hand. Chris says, "And the machete." And then the killer swings the machete, decapitating Chris. His head lands and rolls out the front door. Exterior cabin. Meg sees Chris's head roll out of the cabin as she screams, then runs with Lois, who's come back to get her. Brian is near the van. Peter stops and looks back, seeing the killer who stands in the cabin doorway looking out, and is now wearing the hockey mask instead of the pillowcase, and is wielding the machete. Peter says, "Jason Voorhees, the legend." Like he admires him and shit. Yeah. Peter, Brian, but you know how Peter's cool. Meg, Brian, and Lois rush and get into the van without Peter following, or with Peter following. Interior van. Stewie hasn't started, but he can't reach the pedals with his feet. Stewie looks out of the driver's side window and sees Chris's head looking in at him. Stewie says, "Hey, Chris." Meg, Lois, Brian, and Peter rush out of the van with Stewie following them. Stewie says, "What the hell?" as he looks back and sees the madman drop Chris's head. Meg runs into an old barn behind the cabin. Peter, Brian, and Lois, and then Stewie follow her. So now we're going into an old barn area. Interior barn. Peter is hiding behind a wood beam, trying to suck his gut in. Now there's a little comedy in here with this Friday the 13th thing. That's a Family Guy. Stewie hides under a rusty bucket, occasionally lifting it up, peeking out from under it. The two women climb up a wood ladder to a loft above. The front doors to the barn open, and the hockey mask maniac stands outside looking in. He walks in and starts to look around and sees no one. Make sure this thing is still recording, you guys. I'm using the free recording thing here. Looks like it is. Okay. So he sees no one. Then he gets near the beam that Peter's hiding behind, and we see Peter holding his breath, keeping his gut in. Peter lets out a quick squeak fart, and then he sucks his gut in deeper. The killer looks back toward the wood beam, then walks forward. The maniac stops and looks around, and then walks past Peter and over to the bucket, then lifts the bucket and sees Stewie under it. We hear Peter's voice say, "Jason." There you go, that's a good Tommy impression. The maniac turns and drops the bucket as Peter hits him in the shoulder with a pickaxe. Blood squirts. The maniac falls to the ground. And in the above loft, Meg and Lois come out from behind more hay. Connie's body drops down and hangs from an opening in the front of the barn, scaring them. Back to ground level. Remember when they always led up to that dramatic music at the end, and it was always the same pattern in the movie where Jason would get killed, but then that he could come back again, But it was always the same music that would lead up that man Freddy is what was it? You gotta do that there. Whenever used to do fan films, I did all my own Jason effects, and then added echoes and whatnot. But anyway, let's see. Sound effects on that. So go ahead, see here. Peter walks over to a haystack and pulls Brian out of it. Brian starts sniffing. He says, "What's that smell?" Brian and Stewie look at Peter. Peter says, um, "It's the dead bodies." And then the three look over and see the twin guys laying on top of each other with the spears through them. And they look the other way, and the pickaxe laying on the ground. The killer is gone from sight. They look back at the stacked twins again, and the maniac stands beside the bodies. The killer moves the spear by pulling it up out of them, uh, and then he stabs it into Brian and tries to shake his limp corpse off. He bashes it against a few things, Brian's teeth flying everywhere, and then swings, hitting Stewie, causing Stewie to fly, hit a wall, leaving a bloody smiley face on the wall. There's no nod. Then Brian finally falls off. Close up of Peter, he turns to run towards the open barn doors. Peter runs and runs while breathing heavy, and in a wider angle we see that he's only ran about 5 feet. The maniac hurls the spear at Peter, and it penetrates his back. There's another one. Peter falls forward. Lois from the loft screams, "No!" The killer looks up and sees her back away from the edge, but Meg looks down, and then uh, Meg looks down, and then Meg backs up from the view above. The killer then walks over and rips the spear from Peter's back. Stuff sprays, goo, blood, etc. The maniac starts to climb the ladder to the loft with the spear in one hand. Lois throws stuff down at him. Now this could be anything could be swapped in here, but this is the first script, just like all my others, or first draft, like my other script. So stuff starts to fly down at the killer. A snowball-shaped chunk of hay, a couple of eggs, then a chicken that clucks wildly and flaps its wings in the maniac's face as it hits the hockey mask. The killer drops the spear. Meg continues hiding behind a lump of hay. The killer reaches the top and stands in the loft, looking at Lois in front of him. Meg swings a golf club, hitting a can of nuts nuts, which hits the maniac's nuts, and he falls over. And Meg swings the club again, this time hitting the killer in the stomach. And then the screen goes to black. She's messing him up with that damn golf club like Tiger Woods' ex-wife back in the day. I didn't mean to go there. But anyway, the screen goes to black, and then a close-up of the maniac, who's still wearing the hockey mask. He opens his eyes. Wider angle, we see the rope that was around Connie's neck is now around the killer's neck, and Lewis and Meg are trying to push him off the edge of the loft. He's about an inch from going over. Stewie arrives in the loft, bloody-faced. He helps Meg and Lewis with a last push that sends the killer over the edge. After a few seconds, the rope snaps, and we hear the maniac's body hit below. Okay, the dramatic ending. See the body hits below, and then Meg, Lewis, and Stewie scurry to the edge of the loft and look down to see the killer is laying on a plow. The blades from the plow are sticking up out of his stomach, and the hockey mask is loose and his face is showing. Meg, Lewis, and Stewie all at the same time, while looking down at the maniac, say, "James Woods!" Cut the black screen. Black screen still, and then words appear, and the Family Guy theme song begins to play. "Sorry, James Woods. Sorry." And then black screen again, and then we go to the end credits. So I had to work James Woods in, and then I figured how he shows up, with Family Guy. Like how I have it be the killer, because it's kind of like some of it's like part five, some of it's like different Fridays put together. So leave comments if you guys like it. I was a little nervous at first. Once I got into reading it, I got a little better. But this is my first video, so after this, hopefully I'll get better if I get some good reviews on it. But I wrote this just uh, fan script just for therapy a few years ago, just for fun. But I think I figured I'd like to share it with people and see what they think, and instead of it just sitting on the computer, never being read, never being seen the light of day.